good? What's good? Happy Metaphysical Monday. Who up in there tapped in? I see a few people. Thank y'all for tapping in. I am MC Kolagraphy. Who's in here? Is Ishmael, you in the comments already? If you are, say something in the comments. Okay. And I'm gonna probably have to, work with this camera, pushing it up and down, back and forth, because I want to make sure once I bring Brother Ishmael up, my face isn't cut off. So how's everybody doing? Okay, Ish. So we just getting started, and I was just gonna do like a little opening, and then we can bring you in once we do our opening. So I want to talk about the rise and fall of the so-called Black conscious community. And it's not something that, just happened overnight like some people may think. This is a long battle and process that actually began in the 60s. I was surprised, but when I even did research on that, though Black people were already here, fighting for certain rights and liberation, the same thing was going on in Africa, South Africa in particular. And the Black conscious movement was actually born in South Africa during the time of apartheid. And, we caught on to it based on some of the leaders and leadership that we had. And I don't have everything in detail because it's such a lot of information and a lot of years to cover. I do know we owe a lot to Islam, because I feel like, and Ishmael can correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody else, but Islam was literally, other than Christianity, when it started, of course, with Martin Luther King and people like that, who did a lot of the meetings, and Black people actually did meet up in church. Church was like one of the first places that the conscious community was actually bred from, because that's all we had. So if you want to call it conscious, but, we still had that, European, hell of an European influence on the way we should behave and move in the conscious community. So I have to give it to Islam when I speak, Brother Clarence X and, just, Elijah Muhammad, even Farrakhan, but so many Khalid Muhammad, Brother Khalid Muhammad. It's so many, especially Brother Khalid Muhammad, because he took it even to the next level. But that's the first movement, the Nation of Islam, that gave us knowledge of self and, taught us the truth about, the powers that were, not the powers that be, but the powers that were. Because we can't keep giving that power, you know what I mean? And so, but then even in Islam, and like I said, I don't know exactly how all of that broke down, because that's before my time. But I know a lot of factions and little groups, that formed from that. Also with the Kemetic knowledge, shout out to, John Henry Clark, master teacher John Henry Clark. What's the other one? Brother Dr. Ben. All of the greats, but, that went back in time doing all this research, all of the revolutionaries, the Black Panther, Party of Self-Defense, Move 9, groups like that, and so many groups, even, we want to look at, it's a lot of good, bad, and ugly, but we want to keep it 100 to people that literally did contribute. I want to start with the good. So even Dr. York, he brought a lot of, information, consciousness, and he did something amazing. And if it was done in integrity and with the right, certain knowledge in place, it could have been something really, really greater than even it was. But just that even Egyptian themed amusement park that he built, it's just unbelievable structures and work that went into those things. And, how hard we've worked as a Black community, the ones that have tried to have some sense of dignity, knowledge of self, to each one teach one, trying to pick ourselves up, and things like that. So we've come a long, long way. And so I just wanted to kind of go into a little bit of how I got into Black consciousness. Okay, so first off, my name is Courtney Richardson. I was born in Beaumont, Texas, raised in the Bay Area and Beaumont, both places. I have a Christian upbringing, Baptist, and on the other side, I was a Catholic, hardcore Catholic, hardcore Baptist, first made my first communion, my first confession, my first confirmation, went through all of these different things. I've been christened, I've been baptized, all of this stuff, I was a very deep biblical student. I was a part of the women's mission group at the age of like 19. I had a lot of roles in the churches that I played parts in. One of the churches that I was really, really deeply moved by and I joined was Cathedral of Faith.
Now, generally, I wouldn't do this, but look at how I struggle to remember the church I belong to. And it's not because the churches were not valid. It's just that I'm just that far removed from it. But the church home that I have in Oakland was Center of Hope. And in Texas, once I got away from like my family's church, which was Cathedral and Our Mother of Mercy, I started going to East Mount Olive, and I was pretty active in that church.
But just a lot of things happened, there was a lot of things that weren't answered in church for me. And I rather enjoy church. I love coming together and, worshiping higher power, connecting with, my brothers and sisters in the faith. So I enjoyed all of that. But when it got down to certain things that I couldn't reconcile in my mind, and that was just against certain things of my nature, it was time for me to look and explore other things. So, no, I'm not crying. My eyes and stuff is a little runny because of, the time of year. But what really, really ticked me, what I couldn't wrap my mind around was two things in particular about the church. I didn't like being called a Gentile. That didn't sit right with me, being called a Gentile, and almost like y'all lucky that God accepted y'all because we're the chosen people. All of that stuff didn't sit right with me. And I think the second thing that was major for me was the HIV and AIDS whole thing, and them saying that, black people got the highest numbers, and, stuff like Africa is saturated, just full of AIDS and stuff. And that just didn't sit right with me, because when I look at things like the porn industry and all of this nasty stuff that was taking place, it wasn't black people that was heading those things. So that didn't sit right with me. So I had to continue to get knowledge of self. So at the age of 16, I asked my dad to drop me to the library here in Beaumont, Texas. And I began doing research on my own. It wasn't no internet or nothing like that. I had the library. We had encyclopedias. We had books, and we had to do research. And I started that at the age of 16. And I was 16 in 1995. Okay, so I guess that's when my journey was starting, even though I was still in the church. But it was just things that was contradictory, So I remember I met a brother, because really it was New York, the New Yorkers in Oakland, that really, and some of my Chicago folks. But I met this guy from New York, and he, I was still a Christian, but I was, trying to learn different things that, helped me to understand who I was. And basically, he kept telling me, he was a Muslim, and he kept telling me that Christianity was a cult. And I'm like, a cult? I'm just mad. Like, besides myself, like, what are you talking about? How could you say Christianity? I'm just like, I've never heard anything like that. I never heard anybody black say anything negative about Christianity. It was just like a cult, and he was so strong on it. He wasn't even disrespectful. He didn't say Jesus ain't real. He didn't say none of that. He was just basically saying Christianity itself was a cult. And it was hard for me to digest, that information. But me and him argued, and, I don't know where that brother at now. I know he's somewhere in Brooklyn. Shout out to Ra, because that was my boy. But that always stuck with me, though. It always stuck with me. And that was always in the back of my mind. Like, he really said it with such conviction that I was like, well, damn, maybe I need to be looking at some of these things. And I also dealt with a lot of colorism, coming from a Creole family and Creole community, coming from down south. It was a lot of colorism, and just things that was said to me and things that I heard that just made me feel bad about myself. You know, I remember even thinking at a time that white people, not that I really, really felt that they were better than us, but it was just a shame that I felt sometime in their midst. Like if they didn't like us as black people, sometimes I felt shame. Like I wish I could disappear because the hatred was so strong, you know? So the first thing that really just got me to thinking was, you know, obviously a message to the black man. That was a brother. I went on a date with this guy. It was just little things taking place, and I'm still trying to find my way, still trying to hold on to Christianity and understand as I'm in my late teens, because I had already had a hard life. I had already been through hellish stuff in my life. So I was just looking for something, looking for hope. And if I get emotional, y'all, I'm passionate about my shit, so whatever. So, you know, we are just like looking for hope and stuff, you know. So I went out on a date with this guy, and we never even seen each other past this date, but he took me out to eat. We went to UC Berkeley, and he gave me the book, A Message to the Black Man. And that was my first time ever really reading about black consciousness and understanding who we are as black people and stuff. It was unbelievable. And I just couldn't put this book down, A Message to the Black Man. You know, a lot of us came in through that book. You know what I'm saying? So, man, it was just like things that were just eye-opening. It wasn't really, I was starting to push, I don't know, because it took me 3 more years to finally get out of, you know, Christianity. I think it was after I had my son. It was years, like maybe 5 years. And I left church when my baby was only like 9 months old. So I'm gonna go ahead and flash forward. Excuse me, you guys, give me one moment. Let me pull myself together. So I went through that period, and then I was reading A Message to the Black Man. I'm on internet. I'm interested in what Erykah Badu got going on. I'm interested in what Lauryn Hill got going on. I was reading into Rastafari. I'm reading into 5%. I'm reading, you know, studying things with the Nation of Islam. There's all of these different, trying to understand. My mother bought me a book called Faith in the Valley, written by Iyanla Vanzant, when I was 18. And I was so caught up in the Christian cult, if you will, I was scared to read it. I kept reading it, and I was like, what she's saying is so real, but it doesn't reconcile with, you know, with Christianity. And I'm telling y'all this stuff about Christianity because you got to understand the place I was at when I came into black consciousness. So I found another book, and I'm skipping around. When I do my story time on my page, I'll go into how I got to be Cola Sojak from Courtney Richardson. But I read another book called Deceptions and Myths of the Bible, and that sealed it for me. I knew then that, yeah, it wasn't given. So I started just getting a lot of different books and stuff like that. And then I started dating this other guy named Damani. Shout out to Damani. And his sister Marion, she was like next level with the shit. See, I had to start studying like spirituality first, because I didn't know enough black conscious people. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what that was and stuff like that. So I had to keep some of those things secret. And then I was studying metaphysics. I was studying Wicca. I was studying herbs and studying all kind of stuff, studying my heritage and culture, and just trying to learn all of these things. Then I met Marion, and it was on and popping because she introduced me to the black conscious community in Oakland. And I had all of these other things. I had friends in New York and all that. So it was popping in. And the black conscious community was beautiful. It was very beautiful. It was beautiful, y'all. I'm finna touch into this now. We go into Ashby Flea Market. You know, I had never been to anything like that. Even though I lived in California for a long time, that's not places that my mom and them really took me. And this was in Berkeley. And Ashby Flea Market to me was like another world. You see all of these different black people doing all of these different things. You see Rastas and Muslims and people from overseas and people into Ifa, people into voodoo, people that's, you know, Latina blacks, Afro-Latinas. There's all of this culture, and Mexicans, and incense burning in the air, and all of these different foods, and, you know what I mean, t-shirts, and all of this entrepreneurialism and knowledge and community building, and that just felt really, really good. It felt good, and I don't regret any of that, you know. And that was it. I was done. I was totally into what I was into. We were studying different aspects and different areas in the conscious community, and you know, I decided to go into E5. I also studied Islam. I studied a lot of stuff, you know. So I'm gonna go into what I want to talk about today. It was almost like I was sensationalizing this community. You know, I thought I would find my husband in the Black conscious community and have little Black conscious kids with little afros and little Black power fists and stuff. That's what I thought. That didn't happen for me. You know, as a matter of fact, every man that I dated was not in the conscious community. You know, as a matter of fact, you know, I had to either drag them with me or they were trying to drag me the other way. But the conscious community itself, I've seen it go through many, many different changes. And like I said, we want to talk about the rise and the fall of the Black conscious community, and you know where we are right now. It's risen and have risen and fallen many times. So it's not like, you know, this is the first time, but this is now on a level now that I don't know, man. And my question that I'm gonna pose at the end, and I'm posing throughout the build, is: do you think it's still relevant for Black people to keep pushing for unity, or within a Black conscious community? Do you guys think it's still relevant for us to still push a collective unity within the Black conscious community, or should we be looking more for a diversified mindset in 2023 and moving forward? So that's the first question I pose, and people can think about and ponder on as they tap in. So I want to just talk about the good and then the bad. And I'm going to bring in Brother Ishmael Bey whenever he's ready to come in with us. I'm going to do a quick intermission, and then we're going to go ahead and bring in Brother Bey. So there's so many different groups, though, you guys. I can't even name all of the ways we break down. But just to give you a little insight, you know, some of the groups you would hear, like Muslims, like I said, NOI, Nation of Islam, Rastafarians, Hebrew Israelites, the Cometians or Kemetic people that y'all call Hoteps, conscious Christians even, people that are into African traditional religion, Voodoo Ifa, and so forth. We had Nuwapian Nation. They didn't change their name a few times. Nuwapu, you know, different things. I've studied Dr. York, some of his stuff, but I wasn't a part of that. So I don't know enough about it, as far as the name changes and all of that. Then I have to give it up to 125th Street in Linden, because they're almost like a damn historical learning center. And it's a street, you know, where you'll see brothers like Sinetta and other brothers out there, you know, pushing the consciousness, pushing the information. As a matter of fact, this new conscious community that we're talking about now, House of Consciousness, played a big role. Shout out to Brother Sinetta and, you know, the other people that was instrument with him, Brother Polite even, oh my God, in the House of Consciousness, to help to, you know, bring it to where it is now, but also to where it is now. Okay. So, Brother Ish, did you want to come in now after I do the intermission, or did you want me to go through the list first? I'm going to go ahead with the list of the good and bad, and then we can go ahead and bring on Brother Ish, because I've already talked enough. So what I do like about the conscious community, the good side, it fosters community. It also exposes us to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurialism, just seeing how people are enterprising. It promotes self-love and knowledge of self. It gives us a sense of pride. We meet friends of like minds and consciousness. Okay. And relationships. Some people do meet their lovers and spouses and stuff in the Black conscious community. And I got to give a shout out to the HBCUs, because the historical Black colleges are also part of the community that help push the conscious energy, you know, out there. Like even when Erykah Badu and them came through Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, a lot of New Yorkers ended up moving to Atlanta and Dallas. It was the whole thing, you know, where they brought a lot of the conscious ideas. Yeah, Chicago too. Shout out to Chicago. we meet, so again, we meet people of like minds. We discuss plans for a better world through the Black worldview. We have made collective changes in various cities, in law and in community. It gives us hope and help us find the ultimate, like how to heal self-hatred and how to, I thought we were looking for the ultimate Black love. That's what I thought. Okay. So those are the good things that, we have festivals. I mean, just all kind of lectures, debates, parties, reunions, all kind of stuff. So I really enjoy. Zulu Nation used to give some of the greatest parties. I've been to a few Zulu Nation Oakland chapter parties and Los Angeles, so shout out to LA because they also part of, pushing a lot of the consciousness. Now, I could get a little messy now, but I think I'm going to just, I want to deal with the good, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring Brother Ishmael in, and then I'll talk about some of the not so good aspects. But I'm going to go ahead and take a small intermission, and then, yeah. So, I see people tapping in and out. I can't really see the numbers because they don't always show like real numbers. So anybody that's in, welcome in. And anybody that will be in, welcome in. And if you missed the very beginning, that's okay. You can always watch it again. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little intermission. I'm going to play Elevate again. And I'll be right back with Brother Ishmael Bey. See if it'll let you up, Brother Ish. There you go. What's up, Brother Ishmael Bey? This time we're not going to cut off half my face. So I'm going to make sure the camera is pulled back enough. What's good? Thank you for...
How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on Kolagraphy TV. I appreciate you. Truly do appreciate you.
Always. You family here.
Indeed. Appreciate it.
Ain't that amazing? I mean, one of the great things we can talk about with the conscious community is like even bills like this. I've been knowing you for years, but never met you in person.
This is true. I mean, social media really does make the world smaller. In order for us to interact on a daily basis or a weekly basis, is sometimes where you meet these friends and then you meet, or family that you haven't seen in a long time. Everything stays relevant just by using social media. I agree.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes it can even be more relevant. It kind of takes me back to like when we were young and we couldn't really go and have sex, but we would stay on the phone with girls and guys till hours.
Oh, you fall asleep on the phone.
Fall asleep on the phone. Think of the relationships we built though. You knew those people. You felt a connection with them. We had better relationships almost.
Yeah.
But people barely even like talking on the phone now.
I agree. And sometimes you can feel closer or feel more intimate with some people that you really haven't met because you don't feel like they're judging you, or they get a chance to know another side of you that necessarily those may be close to you may not even see,
Right. And then we're not always focused on trying to impress them, especially before camera phones, because you can't even see what people look like.
Right. Exactly.
And then sometimes you'll meet the people like, oh, damn, I didn't know that's what they look like, good or bad.
Yeah, you can't be catfishing.
Like, damn,
catfishing. Yeah, I gotta at least see something.
Did the street lights come off when you stepped out the car, yo?
Right.
You big out here. No, I'm just
looking more like Freddie Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, don't be catfishing.
Yeah, so anyway. So yeah, you heard a little bit about what I was talking about and everything. And can you tell me a little bit about like, who you are as far as like, did you come into consciousness by way of your family, like your blood family, or is this something that you picked up just living in New York or college or where? How did you get into the Nation of Islam or just whatever? I don't know what your full journey is, but.
Well, I mean, first of all, your journey was beautiful, and thank you so much for your transparency and being able to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, so for me, I got knowledge of self in 1982.
Wow.
Because I was a member of the Nation of Gods and Earth, so the 5% Nation. And when Father Allah set up the structure of the 5% Nation, Father Allah was a member of the Nation of Islam, he was a lieutenant in the Nation of Islam, and he was put out the Nation of Islam because he was teaching the lesson, and the lessons were supposed to be something that you didn't necessarily teach people until they came into the nation. He thought,
okay, he was making it mainstream.
right, he thought that it was so important that you could literally save lives by doing that. And they gave him the ultimatum.
To leave or stay, or to cut it out.
Exactly. And Malcolm was the minister at that time, and this was around 1966.
Okay.
So Father-in-law left the Nation of Islam, and he went teaching in the streets of New York City because he thought that he wanted to focus on the babies. So the 5% Nation is very popular with younger people, and it was actually in one of the core pillars of hip hop itself because
Absolutely.
of that being taught with the babies, them coming up from the
Yeah.
60s and the 70s and the 80s in the prison systems. It was a whole network of people. We all have our own language of speaking mathematics and having our own understanding, our own language of how we interact with one another is swift and changeable. So me being 12 years old, I got knowledge of self because it was made for me to be a young child and for me to understand it. So from then, I was able to start absorbing that information. Oh, the black man is God. Okay. And then, and she's earth over here, and I can, make her fertile and give her a firm understanding of things. Okay, I can relate to that, right? You started learning that the universe, right, as above, so below. So everything was in replication. When I'm looking at, the womb of the woman, I'm looking at the replication of the universe, right? So I'm able to see the value.
So can I say this? Looking at calling a woman the earth and the man the God, and you said the fertile ground.
Right.
So that's almost like saying the goddess would be the manifestation of the God's word, right?
Sure, absolutely. And even when you look at the structure of the mathematics, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? You can't get wisdom unless you have knowledge first. So in other words, the old phrase goes, knowledge is knowing that a tomato's a fruit. But wisdom is not putting it on the fruit dish on the table. Right?
Correct, which you get through spiritual application, which is what I promote.
Exactly.
There's no way to get to wisdom until you do the math. Or do the work.
Math.
Yeah, you do the science. Yeah, you got to.
So that's the knowledge, the wisdom, and then you deliver the best part to us, which is the understanding. You give understanding to us. There we go. The understanding.
The super consciousness.
The best part, right? So all of these principles are things that you apply in your regular life and in your family life, in your community life, and then AKA your national life. So these are principles that should be able to carry throughout if the word is really in you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for that. How it's so much that, because did you guys ever, because I hear a lot of negative. I didn't want to even bring this up yet because one of the questions at the end brings this up, but that's okay. We just flowing.
Sure.
So how did you guys, because I'm hearing a lot of negatives about it, and I have a different take on that about Kwanzaa. So how do you guys feel at that time? I know that was big in the 60s, Kwanzaa, and the principles that, and how it fostered community despite of, some things we really got to take the good with the bad. And that's why I still spoke on Dr. York and different stuff like that. And I'm going to still say what, have to say a few things. But what did you guys think about, did y'all celebrate the Kwanzaa thing, or did y'all just keep that out? Or how do you feel about those principles personally even?
Having a firm understanding of what it represents goes a long way, because Kwanzaa isn't a holiday. It's never been a holiday. It's a cultural reminder. That's what it's always been, right? People try to now commercialize it and make it into a holiday because they're about that money. So for them, they're going to go and prostitute it and make sure that they can popularize it for their own purposes. But Kwanzaa has always been a cultural reminder. So it's about the principles of Kwanzaa, about what do these 7 days represent, right? So if these 7 days are representing something that you can apply, it shouldn't really just be limited to 7 days, of course, but these principles are something that's eternal. Now, with the value and the beauty of Kwanzaa, is it not realistic also that you may have something that's not necessarily peachy keen and squeaky clean? Yes. Okay. So if you really want to look at the quote unquote negative side of things, or just look at the totality of it, you're going to look at, what the founder of Kwanzaa, what he's accused of doing. You know, if you want to say, okay, well, let me study Milana Karenga since this is the person that's bringing this information to me. Oh, wait a minute. He was in opposition of the Panthers? Oh, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He, you know, the CIA had something to do with them working with each other and COINTELPRO, and it got real messy and he did something domestically. If you're able to see the value of what the cultural reminder was about, and you're able to separate it from the person who delivered this message to you, then that's perfectly fine, because the values,
Mm-hmm.
again, taps into the eternal. So, I mean, he's obviously a brilliant man. He got like 2 or 3 PhDs. He has, you know, a vast African amount of knowledge. And he did walk with, you know, the elders, as you were mentioning earlier, Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben and those people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at somebody in their total and be able to take the value out of what they're able to present. If Kwanzaa works
Right.
for you, then that's perfectly fine. And I have no issue with it. It's something that I
Mm-hmm.
use as a cultural reminder because it
Mm-hmm.
teaches me and it reminds me of something that's very important to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, especially the self-determining piece. But
Correct.
I'm,
Kuji
you know, and I,
Chakalia,
yeah,
self-determination.
Cootie
Yeah.
Chagalia, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's I get that from Khaled. He would talk about that all the time because
Yeah.
he was so hell bent on us being self-determined people.
Very important to him. Very
You
important to
know,
him. And I thank him for being able to open my eyes and take it to the next level. I had, again, that firm knowledge of self through a 5%er, but I needed to see somebody who could kind of go into the Bible and make the Bible relevant to me too. Because I always had a spiritual yearning to have a better understanding of the word and how it could apply to me. Because I always knew that my grandmother was a very loving woman. My mother is a very loving woman. So the scripture was something very sacred to them. Well, how can I make this dead book alive in me? Khaled was able to do that for me. I wasn't so critical of the Bible. I was able to go into the poison book, pull out the beauty of the book, and it made me even stronger.
right? Well, see, that's the whole thing, though, and that goes back to what we were just talking about with Kwanzaa
Right.
and the problem within the conscious community. I want to say shout out to brother Dr. Jeffrey Person too. You know, brother Jeffrey did contribute a question, and we're gonna tap into what he answered a question. So, but one of the things is it's something with the political structure when you talk about Islam,
Right.
because one of the problems that I'm seeing with all of this is
the problem, one
the
of the problems.
feedback.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
no problem. I just thought it was something with the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But how can I say it? It seems like we're still looking, because even when you're talking about him and the CIA and the infiltration and all of that, it's
Right.
still this European acceptance that I'm looking at from Black people. So we fight because it's the way we look at things. We see things differently. So the old school people, a lot of them wanted us to be quiet and keep calm because we're making things bad. They wanted to still get respect from the powers that were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them thought it was undignified for us to behave and say certain things, even like Malcolm X or Brother Khaled. You know, they condemned them and all of that stuff at the college and all of that mess, you know, that went down at the
Right.
university,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that a lot of that has to do, because even now I have to tell my parents certain things because the way they thought, like, why are they acting like that? Whatever, you know, because I was taught to be damn near scared of national groups and stuff as a child.
Right.
Because if I knew what was really going on, I would have been initiated a teenager. I was
Yes.
raped. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they had people in Oakland they was Muslim and stuff, and I thought they was flying and everything, but I still stayed to my principle. I'm gonna let you say something on that before I go to the next thing. But I was just saying, you think it's just that political structure that still runs through?
I think ultimately again, I don't want to say powers that be either. The
The powers that
oppressor.
were.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the powers that were, the oppressor. They in one breath will tell you, okay, well, if you don't like it, go back to Africa, or pull yourself up by the bootstraps. What do you keep on crying about? Okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, we're gonna pull ourselves up by the bootstrap, not mess with you, and do our own thing. So that's what
Right,
we did in Oklahoma, right? We set up Black Wall
right.
Street. With Black Wall Street, we had our own companies. In fact, that dollar would circulate between 30 to 900 times before it ever even left that township. So it would circulate
Mhm.
for a year and a half before it ever left Black Wall Street. But what
Wow.
did they do? They got jealous of our success and they started messing with us so that they can burn it down. And they did the same thing in Rosewood. They did the same thing in so many Black townships of us being self-sufficient and not messing with them.
Right.
So the Black Panthers were the first people. We take for granted now, if you're in the neighborhood or in certain parts of your town, you can go to emergency quick care. You can get emergency care. That was established by the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party in their neighborhoods set up health clinics. That's where that started at.
And then guess what they did to them? They setting up the, and I know you know, but I'm just gonna speak it because it needs to be said.
Right?
They as soon as they were giving free in Oakland, giving free treatments and things to people, they
Right?
called that domestic terrorism. And started
Domestic
coming in.
terrorism.
I mean, what the hell is that? Helping
Right.
people
Right. And
with
they
your
was
degree. So
and they
you can't even do what you want with your degree. They control what you do with it.
right. And not only were they setting up the healthcare, as you know, they were setting up the food.
The free
So that
lunch, the
the
free
free
lunch
lunch
program.
programs, right? So with the free lunch programs, we were feeding ourselves. We were taking care of our own. They were clothing ourselves because they did food drives. They were doing this all internally, not messing with you. But that wasn't good enough for you. You started to infiltrate them because they did what you told them to do.
Right, and we did it successfully. See,
We
they
did
hate
it
when you do it
successfully.
successfully, and you don't have
Right.
to go falling back. Because see, what we gotta always keep in mind, and I want to just say, welcome in. I see my boy Adam Angel and Steve Bobo. Welcome into the bill. But they oh goodness, I kind of missed my thought. But what were we
They
saying?
were
What
being
you got?
self-sufficient. The Black Panthers were being self-sufficient, and the oppressor was being nosy and started to try to infiltrate to destroy them.
Because they didn't like that we did it successfully. But what we got to continue to remember that stench of slavery is something that we can never. Thank you, peace, peace. We can never get rid of because they put all of these people over here, whether it was Native Americans and people from Africa, and now we're no longer of service to them. We're now a beast of burden.
Right.
So it's like anything that we do, they like, how dare these niggas? You know, who you think you are? To
Right.
even think you're going to do this is almost like seeing somebody build the sandcastle and you just come and kick it down, you
Exactly.
know, just for
Exactly.
what? You
Mm-hmm.
know, just because even with as big as this earth is and all the resources and stuff we have, there's no reason why they could even give us the people that want to be conscious and want to be the ones that wanted to be separate. There's no
Mm-hmm.
reason why we shouldn't be able to have that. But it's like they would never leave it alone because it's like the powers that were have to control every piece of the land. Everything is
Control.
everything, everything. Then they go to the universe and start trying to colonize that.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know,
It's all about the control. And again, they'll tell you to do one thing, but then get threatened when you actually do it because they're addicted to the control. So for
right?
us, we take that control back. So I like the title of this one because we're not just dealing with the rise and the fall of the conscious community. You're a healer. So it's the rise, the fall, and the resurrection. So yes,
Mm,
we rise, we fall. As you said, these are phases. You know, we rise up again. So it's about the resurrection of it too. Since we're healing people, we talk about the full thing. We're not just telling you what the problem is. We're going to give you the solutions too. That's the
correct.
importance of what this community represents. So even though, yeah, we take L sometimes, we talk about what, you know, different leaders may step
People
up and
did.
do. Yeah.
Mm,
But at the same time, also, we look at the whole picture and say, you know what, we're very resilient people and nothing's going to keep us down. So this is a part of that conversation I think that we're supposed to be having this evening. Absolutely.
right. And honestly, I mean, I'm definitely, gonna take us through because you can't give a person um, all of these problems and those solutions. That's what men be having issues with sometimes, even with women.
Hmm.
We'll yell out what we don't like and complain, but you tell a man what you need so he can meet those needs, not what you don't want.
Fair enough.
That's what I
Yeah,
believe.
that's right. That's right.
This is
Give us
what I
chance.
need.
Give us
I need
grace.
you to do this. I need you to I need you to not talk to me in that tone, in the same,
Right.
with vice versa.
Right.
Because black love is a part of the conscious community. Now, see, that's something that's a whole another thing that I'm gonna tap on
True.
because that's a problem that we got
Hmm.
some real serious issues within that.
Sure.
because
And we need to heal
people
on that.
come.
We need to heal in
We
that
got to
all the way
deal on
around.
that for
Yes.
sure we do.
Hmm.
So let me see. We already covered like. So how long has it been now that you've been in the Nation of Islam, or where
I went into the Nation of Islam in the 80s, so like around like about 89. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was active in the Nation of Islam for a little over a decade. Once I started seeing again the direction of the Nation of Islam started changing. Once it started getting into the 90s and right into 2000, the direction of the Nation of Islam started going away from quote unquote self-sufficiency, and they started being infiltrated by the Church of Scientology. And
That
by
early
them,
on?
yeah, they started, actually Minister Farrakhan had already kind of had that in the back of his mind for about 20 years before that. So his intent was for a long time to start taking directions toward that. We just didn't know what his intent and what his vision was. But yeah, it was already in his mindset for about 20 years before that. Um,
Mm.
so when I saw that direction of it going, that's where I was like, no, I didn't sign up for that. None of that had
Right.
nothing to do with the letter that I signed. It had nothing to do with the lessons, the supreme wisdom lessons, or anything that I represent. So no, I gotta alert the community of what's going on. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I was the first person to come forward to let the public know about that direction of the Nation of Islam, because I was trained by Dr. Khalid to stand on the truth regardless to whom or what. And I lived
Mm-hmm.
with him as he took his stand on standing up for what was truth. He taught me and taught us that was with him how to stand up for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. But speaking of Brother Khalid Muhammad, who do have a Christian background too, and he was wanted to be a Christian minister first, and he was all set up for that. I was like so mad at the church for a long, long time. I don't want to hear about it. That's why when
Mm-hmm.
they have conscious groups and they still trying to make Jesus black and go, I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear none of it. I was not having it until I was doing a reading with my hoodoo tarot cards, and it said, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater."
Right.
I was like, damn, because we have to be able to have, black people. That's why I like the conscious community in the sense of we all have different, even like Adam Angel, he got something he brings called real religion.
Mm-hmm.
So it just everybody has something that they bring, but at the end of the day, at the heart of it, is really supposed to be about love, unity, and black betterment. It's really supposed to be about respect in our respective world. That's why I don't think that everything got to just be, oh, let's keep it to only black people, because we have to be respected. Just
Yep.
like Asian people can't only serve Asian food. That's not good business
Mm-hmm.
to say I'm only going to feed Asian people. I mean, that's crazy because we all partake in different things, and we have to be able to have respect. They don't respect us because we call ourselves black. For one, black ain't even shit. That's not even we made it something, but I'm saying that's not nothing when you're talking about nations.
Right.
And a lot of us not knowing where we come from, and even with what you dealing with the Native American, trying to bring more of that consciousness to us and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's very important. I think once we elevate and
Absolutely.
elevate your mind, once we elevate our
Yes.
mind, right, we move from local to global. Once you move from local to global, when your global kicks in, your nationhood kicks in. So that's when you
Mm,
understand that nations understand that diplomacy goes a long way. You
it
have to have
does.
diplomats. You have to understand the fact that when you sit at the table with these other people, their sovereignty is just as important as yours. Your humanity is just as important to mine. If you can respect my humanity and my self-determination, I can do the same for you, and we can meet as equals. I'm not going to
Mm,
tolerate you oppressing me, and I'm not going to
right.
tolerate you thinking that you're in a superior position to me. No man or woman
Hmm.
is better than me. I'm
That's
no
right.
better than anyone else. So let's all meet
That's
as
right.
equals at the table as equals. That's moving
Hmm.
from local to global.
Hmm. Absolutely. Because even because we just want it to be so inclusive or exclusive, then we can't even trade, and that's when you don't get respect either. Because that's when people start moving against you when they don't really know what you're about, and you know, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just when they start.
that's right though. Yeah, you have to be mature enough to have those tough conversations. Don't put yourself on the island. Don't be Gilligan. Don't put yourself on the island. Put
Not
yourself
on the
out there.
earth.
Right,
The earth is
exactly.
big,
We got a
we
whole
almost
Earth.
think.
Yeah, 196,940,000 square miles of it. So how about we take advantage of the whole global thing and let's move in that space? Yeah.
Yes, let's move in that space. Now, you did have some questions that it's so much. Like, I really didn't even realize how much this could be to tackle, to the
Mhm.
point that this is something that should be like done again, but in a different, I don't know, like how you be talking about Clubhouse and stuff.
Yeah.
I would love to bounce off some of it's so many people in the room,
Mm-hmm.
that can hear the message and also contribute.
Right.
That's why I like platforms like Bigo and stuff too, because we were on Bigo, I could open up the cells right now where 8 people could be on there listening, and we could cut their mics on or off, let them talk. We could
Uh-huh.
have admins that kick them in and out just like that, but we could see each other. Or you
Right.
have the choice to see each other or not. So I like Bigo for that.
I like that
Going
option.
back,
Mm-hmm.
you're bringing a mess. You the problem, So sometimes it's the energy you're coming in, you know.
You attract it.
So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
so you did give me a few little things that we can also build on, and it's a lot because it's a lot of things that I haven't even touched. But I just want to get to some of this.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been a part of any other conscious groups or movements alongside of Nation of Islam, like Zulu Nation or 5% or anything else?
Um, well, 5%.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
do.
I'm Ishmael Bey. So, I've always been like, a Moor for many years as far as
Oh,
getting
Moore. That's
a
right. I
better,
forgot the Moors. I'm
right,
sorry. I
uh,
forgot the
uh,
Moorish people on the list.
a better
Yeah.
understanding of the importance of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you know.
Right. Speak
Um,
on it.
that's so important because in 1913, when he was able to establish, what his mission was, again, that was at the ground level. That was
Mm-hmm.
that was before a lot of the other people who came a little bit after him. But when you talk about the movements that were taking place in like the 20s and the 30s, we're talking about Sweet Daddy Grace. Sweet Daddy Grace,
Mm,
he was a Portuguese and he was coming
yeah.
from Cape Verde. Sweet Daddy Grace
Mm,
was. So
mm-hmm,
he brought a whole identity in there that hadn't been seen before. Cape Verde, Portuguese, but you look like
mm,
you and me. And he was so successful in his real estate, he was able to get vast amount of real estate and had a lot of power. And then you have
mm-hmm.
Father Divine. Father
Father
Divine,
Divine.
he was going around just
Come
straight telling
on.
people, I'm God. He was telling you back then in the 20s, I'm
Hey,
God, you know?
like I said, Christianity. We can't
Right?
forget Reverend Ike. Some of the things that I'm trying to teach people about frequency. They can
Reverend
tap, if
Ike.
you're a Christian, tap into Reverend Ike. That's,
Reverend Ike.
come on, man. You can't lose with the stuff I use.
Right. Sweet Daddy, Reverend Knight said, what? The best way to help poor people is not to be one of them? That's a bar. That's a bar. So, and flashy, because they got that flashiness from, it was Sweet Daddy Grace, who had long fingernails, diamonds on
Yeah.
each hand, permed out hair, And then in that same vein, you have Farad Muhammad. Farad Muhammad
Mhm.
came in there. There's a real good book on it called Black Gods of the Metropolis. It deals with those three
Mm.
people, but that whole movement that was taking place in the 20s and 30s, but that laid a firm foundation. And the advantage of like Elijah Muhammad or Farad Muhammad was that he was able to find good representation of his message. It wasn't just wrapped up in Farad Muhammad. He selected
Mhm.
a wise person in Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad selected wise people in Malcolm X, who opened up temples all over the country. And then he selected Minister Farrakhan, who was very articulate and very charismatic. And then you have
Mhm.
Muhammad Ali. So you had people that could represent your message. That's why your movement seems like it's so much stronger than others, because you were very wise with who you selected your message in. But that's who carried over into hip hop and those messages of Father Allah and the things that we are able to see today. Wu-Tang Clan and those different groups. So the message is still alive. It just takes a different incarnation.
And also some of the lingo, word up,
Yeah,
bet it up to the gods,
yeah. Word is
word to the
bond.
mother,
Yeah, word
word
is
is
bond.
bond.
So yeah, it always comes through the hip hop elements and even through the importance of Zulu Nation and that foundation. Again, with that good, yeah, we look and see what Africa about is going through. But when you look at what was very instrumental in the foundation of hip hop, Zulu Nation played a very important part of that.
I was ready to just say, you know what? We just need to focus on our own individual mental healing and stuff, which is true,
Yeah.
and just deal with I didn't even feel like it was anything left to build on, really. But you know what? We have to quit being so judgmental, though, because that's where the whole thing comes from. Nobody is perfect. We all have darkness, and we all have done things that's not right. So with
Sure.
that being said, you know, whether it's in the church or whatever, but at the end of the day, we really still fighting this same beast. We
Right.
still fighting this same energy of trying to, you know, just we haven't done the healing because we don't know what to do. A lot of people in survival mode. So the first thing they want to do is respond and react to these certain things and beat up each other.
Yeah.
But there's so much that we did bring to even get to this level because we didn't know anything as
Right.
slaves. Like brother Ashra Kwesi said, you know, it was hard. Does he say when your enemy, not the enemy, but when your oppressor becomes your deity?
Okay.
It's almost like saying, he was saying like when we were spiritual people, but they took so much from us that the only spiritual light and salvation that we got was from the oppressor. So
Sure.
now your oppressor has become your deity because they're
Absolutely.
showing us images of the white Jesus and, you know, making us feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
Like what Brother John Henry Clark said, when the way he came into the conscious, or not into the conscious community, but what made him start to research is
Okay.
because he was told by his, not master, but the boss, that he had no history.
Right.
He said, I'm sorry, John, Black people have no history. And
Right.
that, he was like, that didn't sit right with that brother. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so anyway, yeah, I just wanted to kind
And
of bring that piece
and
in about judgment.
that same story can be said with Malcolm X. Malcolm X told a story in his autobiography when his teacher told him, "Oh yeah, well you'll make a good, you know, like a handyman or like a plumber. You know, why don't you think
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, you don't have to worry about trying to be a lawyer. How you know, you can fix things in my house. How about that, Malcolm?" You know, so
Yeah,
these people put their cap on you so that they can limit you and control you.
right,
So as we're
right.
in our community, one of the biggest things that to our detriment sometimes is, yes, we're all flawed, but at the same time, we have to be accountable for our actions. Sometimes
Absolutely.
we don't hold each other accountable. And we
That's
even
right.
start to blame a victim before we even start to blame the person who did the harm. So it
Absolutely.
doubles the trauma. Not only am I a victim of what you did to me, but now the community that I'm supposed to trust is attacking me. So what
Right,
about these sisters who have been harmed by men that are predatory? They got the
right,
gift of gab. They got the gift of word. They got they know how to use the word to manipulate. So they're in your pockets and they're taking money from
right,
you, or they're taking
right,
sex from you, or they're abusing you
right.
one way or the other. Are you now in a community that will hold that nigga accountable for harming you?
Mm,
Or will
right.
they blame you and compound the pain that you're going through? If I can't
Mm-hmm.
trust the community, because I mean, we failed many of our elders. Some of the great elders that we've had, Dr. Ben had to like be given money after Dr. Ben worked in the field for over 60 years straight. This man should not have to ask for charity from the community for him to have food or for him to have clothing or for him to have be put into a place of comfort. And Dr. John
Right.
Henry Clark had no money when he died.
No money.
After you put in 40, 50, and 60 years, you've gone
This man
blind.
read books till he went blind for us.
Yes.
Till he went
And can
blind. And
remember
these
it.
niggas don't even think about it. They don't want to hear about it. You know how
Right.
tired I am of this community? It's even outside of the community because it's like the people that are still indoctrinated with the European way of thinking, they don't even realize the contributions our people have made for us to have
Right.
some knowledge of self, for us to
Right.
be where we are, to be able to have these diatribes that we're having right now. And that pisses me off. Somebody
Yes.
going blind trying to bring us information. Even
And
some of the stuff that we do have in church. Stuff
yes.
like, you know, things that build groups like Kwanzaa and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's very sad because
Right.
those people were rich. Those are rich people. They
Mm-hmm.
so rich in information and spirit and time and energy.
Right.
Like he
And
said, he didn't
those
come here to
men were
debate.
those men and women were pillars. These people were priceless. You know what I mean? If I'm
Right,
looking at what, you know, some of these mighty sisters and some of these mighty brothers who came through, the doctors that they had, Dr. Francis Quest Welsing is priceless to me. So
Priceless,
for you
man.
not to understand the value of that, or when I look at how Dr. Clark could give you the page number and the footnotes and be blind, that's to memory. That's in his heart. So that's
And what's the brother
priceless.
name that was with Dr. Francis? What's his name? The one she was studying under. That
Neely
first brought up
Fuller.
the
Neely Fuller.
yes, Neely Fuller. Absolutely,
Absolutely.
Neely
Dr. Neely
Fuller.
Fuller. And so these people are priceless teachers, and their words should be, cherished at the highest level. But we take it for
Right,
granted, we don't necessarily appreciate them. My grandmother taught me it's a poor frog that don't praise his own pond. So if you don't
mm,
understand the value of what's around you, if you don't understand the greatness that's amongst you, and sometimes we do maybe when they're dead or when they're no longer
right,
among us. Oh, the t-shirts. Oh, I love him so much. Oh, I'm clutching the casket. Oh, he's so great. But what about when I'm amongst you, right? The flowers that I can give to you as my sister, I can give to you now to let you know I
right.
support you, I love you, and I'm here for you because you're
Same.
alive and I can hear you, right? And I can feel
Right,
you. So that's
right.
when we should be praising each other and supporting one another. You've praised my the things that I've done, and I'm here to praise and
Absolutely,
support you for the things that you do. That's
absolutely.
that's the reciprocity that we need to move in. That's the
Hmm.
space that we're supposed to be representing.
Correct.